Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I am joined today by Juliana from the Language Mindset. You can find her on Instagram. Predominantly, I see you a lot on Instagram. Are you active
Yeah,
on Facebook as well, or
yeah, we have Facebook. Yeah, but Instagram mostly.
yeah, yeah, her Instagram is awesome, guys. Go and check it out. I'll leave the links to Juliana's like website and everything in the description box below. If you look up the Language Mindset, you'll find her. And Juliana, welcome. It's been a
Thank you.
while since we last spoke. It's great to see you again. How are things going? I know you've been working hard. I've seen that on your Instagram and your website and everything. You work with kids predominantly, don't you? Like sharing the joy of languages with kids.
Yep. And I have to say, Patrick, you being an internet friend of actually a couple years, because I remember I have to actually thank you a little bit here for niching to just children. Because when I first started Language Mindset, we're going to celebrate 5 years in June. You and I having a conversation on WhatsApp, because we're just like, we're both language teachers. Let's talk and like get to know each other. You said to me, and I'm going to do it in a British accent, okay? You said, Juliana, you go, we were talking about, because I taught adults and children in Spanish, French, and Italian. Those are my main languages that I speak. And you said, Juliana, you're like, really, what sets your heart on fire?
Oh my God,
What's,
that's a terrible accent, by the way,
I
but go on.
know, let me, really, you go so early, like, all right, so what sets your heart on fire? Like, is it teaching children or is it adults? And that conversation was really pivotal for me, because what really what sets me apart and excites me is teaching children. I've been teaching children, I can say, for over 20 years, and adults. I taught adults, but that wasn't the what really set my fire. Like, have what my fire like inflamed with language learning. It's for children. So thank you for asking me that question many years ago.
Yeah, I do remember that conversation. Yeah. And I'm kind of in a similar place now. I've started to niche down and kind of realize, okay, who do I love serving? And for me, it's adults. We've gone the opposite ways. I've kind of stepped away from teaching children. I taught a lot of them in Spain, and I was like, right, okay, I love helping people learn like a language and see them grow and develop and whatnot. But children, it's just not my thing. Teaching adults, monolingual Anglophone adults their first foreign language. Wow, that's my thing. I love that. So I'm thrilled that that helped you and you found what you love doing, and you do it very well, I may say. Through story learning, looks like you've kind of taken that angle. Talk to me about story learning. Why is that so effective when it comes to teaching children foreign languages?
Yeah, so I'm a trained New York State Spanish teacher, and when we, this is why I love how we have the same philosophy, right? It's like, first of all, relax with all of the expectations and the shoulds of how we should learn a language, right? And like focusing on the grammar. I mean, I also love the approach that you're taking now. Like, it's so more holistic, and that's my approach with stories. It's, you learn a language holistically, naturally, and the only way to do that is through stories. I'm not ready. This isn't anything new. It's not like I'm reinventing the wheel. I have finally gotten comfortable enough to say we don't teach grammar explicitly. We do teach grammar. Actually, yesterday, I tried this new activity with this one girl in my one-on-one, and I said, "Oh my gosh, we were doing we teach grammar through decoding, through symbols. So our symbols are, when we're looking through the story, I'm like, okay, can you find the living thing in the story? And they would put a heart for, when they see gatto or scoiattolo, because those are our main characters, Sunny, Salt, Pepper, and Sunny. So I said to her, I said, oh my gosh, I go, you learned the grammar. I go, you learned grammar. Basically, I was like, you did what I wanted you to do. You learned grammar. And she goes to me, Patrick, she goes, what's grammar? And I go, yes, my girl, that's exactly it. The fact you don't know you're learning grammar with me right now, and you did everything I wanted you to do, that's it. and we're learning it through my book, The Word Thief, that I created, and I have an illustrator. So I've tried the other way, Patrick. You have too. It's not effective to just focus on the grammar. It's like learning how to ride a bike through reading a bike manual.
Mhm. Yeah, good analogy. Good
Right?
analogy. Talk to me about the symbols then. How does that work exactly? Teaching the grammar through symbols. What are the
All right.
symbols?
Yeah. All right. So I have my book here. The
Epic.
symbols. So basically, you have parts of speech, right? Your verb, your noun. Noun is a tough one because it's a person, place, or thing. So that was like a
Mhm.
big symbol. So I broke down the symbol of a noun and into a living thing, because all of our stories always have animals. So we have a living thing. We have a heart for the living thing. We have um, a star for a thing, right? So if it's a thing, like what is Sunny eating? Le mangia una
Okay.
torta. Okay, so like
Okay. So like,
so like lo scoiattolo mangia una torta. So like cosa mangia lei? And you put like a star above torta. And
uh-huh.
then
Okay.
you put the check mark because for an action for mangia. And that's all they need to know. They need to know that,
Wow.
like, cosa fa lei? Cosa fa lo scoiattolo, Sunny? Lei mangia? And they go, so we actually made, so yesterday I had this idea. We actually took the decode. So you write the decoding, right, inside the book. So I had this idea. I was
Hmm.
like, let's make this actually fully kinesthetic. So the student and I was like, let's make this into a thing. So I would read the story. And every time she heard an action, the symbol for our verb is a check
Hmm.
mark. So I
Okay.
would say,
Yeah.
so I'd be like, Lenny, or I said, Sunny mangia una torta. There it is. And I was like, ready, let's symbolize it. I go, Sunny lo scoiattolo mangia una torta. So she goes, Sunny,
Uh-huh. Okay.
scoiattolo part, mangia. We don't worry about like una, all that stuff. Don't worry about it. Una torta. And she was like, bing, this is the symbol for heart. We did, or excuse me, not heart.
For the star.
The star, grazie, sì,
Uh-huh.
la stella. So we were like this. So I'm reading the whole thing because I wanted to train her ear. That was my objective yesterday in the story, was train the ear. Oh my gosh, Patrick, it worked. It was a slam dunk. And she said to me after, she's like, what's grammar? And I was like, my job is done here. Like
Wow.
the fact that we did Spanish. The fact that
Mm.
she's interacting, we're reading the story all in Spanish, and we're talking about the story, and we're dissecting the grammar without her knowing that we're dissecting grammar, and that it was interesting and fun. That's how you create language learners for life.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I like about that is you're not teaching her all the language jargon. This is something I avoid even with my adult learners.
Yes.
You can't help but teach them the right words eventually. But to start off by saying, okay, this is even things like, I mean, a verb maybe is simple, right? But certainly with the tenses, the past
Yeah.
perfect, the present perfect, all these kind of things, the preterita, I don't even say it in English, preterito, all of
See,
that is like it's jargon. It's another language on top of it. So I guess with the kids, you've got that problem glaring you in the face, right? Like, okay, how am I going to communicate this with them? How am I going to teach them the grammar without teaching them the jargon and one turning them off the language completely because it's horribly difficult, two boring them, and three confusing them. So you use the symbols. I love that. Okay, because I can really imagine that when you were saying, okay, yeah, manja, okay, like a green tick. I was imagining, yeah, it's like a doing
esatto,
word.
sì,
It makes sense.
sì, sì, sì. So okay, so you meant, so like, because we can like nerd out and be like, here's the gerund, you use the gerund, and then you use an auxiliary verb. Who wants to talk? Like, you don't need to know about auxiliary verbs and gerunds unless you're a linguist. So it's like, so I think about
Mm.
like in that. And so like I do have to train eventually. They're going to go into public school, so they're going to get all that. So I'm like, you know what? Our goal is like, we have 7-year-old, like 7-year-old is like perfect. So we basically, I say language mindset is a preventative measure, meaning we get the kid pretty fluent by 12 years old. By the time they go to middle school, they're already like reading a full chapter book. I tell this 8-year-old Patrick, one of my other students, I go, Max, you're reading better than some of my 14-year-olds when I taught like high school Spanish. Like you're reading better than them and you're understanding. And he was all like all excited. So that's the idea, honestly. So we have chapter books, which we have the Word Thief, officially translated, well, I guess 9 different languages, including English. And then we have short stories. So the short stories are like the warm up, basically gets the kiddo ready for the chapter book. And also we have some group classes, some smaller classes. So the short stories are perfect for that. We spend a whole month on a story. So we're doing tea time right now is the story in my Italian club. And it's actually Sunny is the main character. And there's a fox that wants to have tea, but can't climb up it's a cool, like, you guys, I'm going to send you some of my stuff for you to check out because it's beautiful. Like Sunny's there in the forest and there's like a little tree house, right? So we have the Italian or whichever language, right? So there's like a visual there, and we have our decoding, and so it's really interactive. And we spend a whole month on it. We have a whole workbook that goes with it too. So it's awesome. I wish we had it when I was my age.
I know. Do you know what? I thought that when you said we like to kind of think of ourselves as like a preventative measure, I was like, oh yeah, I love that. Can you imagine you'd be going into like the school environment just on the front foot straight away,
Exactly.
and like you said, all these things, the terms and what like the gerund and present continuous and da da da, they would make sense. They would click. It would be easy. They wouldn't
Right.
need to necessarily even learn the language like they teach it at school, but it's such a good way. It starts them off on the right foot, you know. They'll know, okay, this is wrong. Why are we learning this? This is not how you learn a language.
Exactly right.
And they've already got the concepts of the symbols and everything.
Yeah.
I love it. I love
And
it.
this,
And it's so unique as well. I've not seen, obviously, the story learning method thing is something that Ollie Richards made very famous, didn't he, in like the language learning
yeah,
space. And
I'm
it's an
basically,
epic
I'm
method,
basically like
but
a mini Ollie Forgets. I've actually reached out to Ollie. I was like, can we collab? And he's got a lot of projects. So,
yeah.
he's doing a lot of things. I love what he does. I do his Japanese course, and
Mm,
there's not a window for kids. And it's either this, it's either you're gonna learn colors, shapes,
yeah.
and days of the week, which I don't even know the shapes in any of the languages I speak, because I don't talk about shapes. Oval, rectangle. Who uses that in a conversation? I'm sorry. Okay, so
I agree with you. Yeah, yeah.
like
I'm exactly the
why?
same. I'm terrible for it. My students will get like be like 2 years in, and they'll be like, oh, do you know what? I don't know how to say, I don't know, a certain number or whatever. And I'm like, oh yeah, maybe, but you can learn the numbers in the days of the week and things like that, literally by
Exactly.
chanting them. Go on YouTube, 10 minutes, you've learned it. Do you know?
We're not
We shouldn't
we're not gonna
fixate on that at the start.
exactly right. And so this is like when I think about, I used to call them juicy sentences when I was in teaching. Juicy sentence is basically having every decoded symbol in a sentence. What does that look like? You need to have your noun. Okay, so you need to have your noun, your like a place, a description. That's a juicy sentence. So
Hmm.
a juicy sentence would be this. In the summer, I go swimming with my friends, and uh it's very hot.
Hmm.
I think I might have all the symbols in there. So in the summer is the when, which is an arrow. So we do this arrow,
Okay, so
when.
the when, yeah,
Summer.
yeah, talk me through the symbols because I love this idea. I want to try and like really get into this. So the when, like when's it happening? That's an arrow. Yeah.
So the when is could be time of day, it could be a season, it's
Sure.
just because it's basically your question words, your where, what, when, why. That's a
Hmm.
juicy sentence. If you can't respond and you're where, what, when, why, what I mean juicy means like it's a full sentence. If you can't answer those, you're not having a conversation. So when I am I say interrogating, when I'm asking my students questions about the book, The Word Thief, I would be like, I would say things like, I'm looking at the book right now. I would say like, okay, so where does Sunny live? And if they don't know the word where, like, where does Sunny live? Does Sunny live in a tree or in a house? She lives in a tree, by the way. And so these question words are really important. So when you look at proficiency, if they can just say, yes or no, that's a low novice, right? So we want to like continue going up.
Mm,
Sunny the
mm.
squirrel lives in a tree where near Salt and Pepper's house. So the symbols, okay, here they are. I got them. I don't know if you can see.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
So you
I
have the
can't quite
living,
make out what's written there. The live in the heart, the star.
so you have the living. Okay, the text is small, but you see the symbol. So you have the heart for living,
Yeah.
heart for living, star for a thing. The when is the arrow, and do you notice that all these symbols are for Zoom because we're online school.
Ah, very good. Okay.
So I was like, we have to make this practical because we have a
Mm,
stamp. We use the stamps on Zoom. So there's the question, excuse me, the check mark for the action. The description is like your adjective, and then your where is your donde or your dove. So like if a kiddo can understand a text from all of these and answer all of those, they're golden. I don't.
yeah.
Do they comprehend? Do they comprehend me when I'm asking them? And can they answer appropriately? Some can just say see, and some can maybe just put the descriptive of saying like, and some can say like, yes, Sunny is a red squirrel. Or maybe some people can say Sunny, I'm like loving Sunny today. I gotta talk about Salt and Pepper. So Salt is a cat. He is black. Like those are the things. I don't know, Patrick, it works. It just works. And the kids are learning so much. And I remember, I'm just thinking to myself, these guys are 8 years old and they're like reading our short stories that are between 25, our short stories are between 25 to 50 words.
Mm,
And and you know what I think too is it's important in the environment. It's like we don't correct them, we model. This one little sweetheart is like still willing to like read the Italian story, even though he sees the GLI, right, Patrick, and he's like,
ah, yeah.
and
My girlfriend still makes fun of me when I'm speaking and I'm speaking fast and I can't say ni. She goes
yeah,
ni. It's a
yeah,
hard
and you
sound
know
to
what?
make.
It doesn't. I think myself the fact that I want children not to feel like they can't do it because the fact of the reality is this. Again, I taught in public schools, and when they get that requirement, that language requirement, the drop is like, yeah, they're sink or swim. And
Mm,
I guess my mission is to let kiddos know, and it's just like you, it's like anyone can learn a language. We just have tricks. That's all it is. And we prioritize, right? We prioritize what's important with language learning. Like, don't worry about that thing right now. Let's not even talk about it.
yeah,
It's not
exactly.
it's not even important. Like just and that's something I tried for a while to find stories that were appropriate for my kids, for my students, and I couldn't find it. I was like, all right, screw it.
I'll make them.
I'm doing it.
Yeah.
It's either too basic or it was like for a bilingual kid. And I'm like, this is for a monolingual kid that wants to start learning Chinese with us. Or this is for a
Mm,
monolingual kid that wants to learn Korean. We have Korean. Or this is for a monolingual kid that wants to learn French, like from zero. They need to have it be interesting and they needed to have it at their level and it has to be relative. Some of the stuff was so our books are awesome.
yeah, the
They really
passion
are.
comes through. It comes through the screen, eh? I love it. I'm sat here smiling listening to you because I know how you feel. I know how you feel uh when you get passionate about something and it sounds like yeah, the books. Yeah, I want to look at the books. Do you know what? When you
Yes.
were posting on Instagram about the books and stuff, I was like, man, who can I buy a book for? Do you know? I was thinking, who can I
Yes.
buy
Thank you.
a book for? I want to look at it first and foremost and read it
Yes.
and stuff. I'm like, oh, I've got no, I don't have a kid yet, you know. I can't wait. I can't wait to have a kid and get on one of the books. And what I also want to talk about, that you mentioned there about the characters. So you got three characters, three main characters, I'm guessing, right? And something I
Yes.
love about that is that brings another what would the right word be? Like another dimension to it. It takes it out of the 2D, gets it into 3D and even into like, well, 4D, whatever. It brings them to life. you know. So they've got, then I imagine, I guess this is either down the line for you or you've got them already, little toys or whatnot, and they can practice speaking with them.
Yes.
I guess that's
Yes.
part of
See
your
it.
program already, is it? But I can see it. It makes so much sense. So much sense. You've got a book where
Yeah.
they speak the language, and the other thing I really love about it, which you already know because you're the one who's done it, but for people who are unaware of this, when you speak a foreign language, you have to create a character. And
Mm.
when you speak to someone, say, for example, we'll take my girlfriend because I'm thinking about her, think about her often, love her. I speak to her in English or Italian. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
She, a few months ago, she was like, "Oh, I want to learn Spanish. Can you speak to me in Spanish?" And I was like, I can, but I can't for more than a few sentences because I'll flip back into Italian or
Yeah.
in English because my relationship with you, with her, is Italian or English. And there's a real power in that. If you can have this character and the kid speaks to, sorry, I forgot one of the names, Salt, let's say,
Well,
Salt and Pepper, yeah? Salt,
salt,
Pepper, and
pepper, and Sunny.
the squirrel, Sunny, right?
Sunny.
Okay, so they speak to Sunny and they know, okay, well, Sunny only speaks Italian, do you know? So when
Right?
I speak to Sunny, and it will also trigger in their minds, right? Oh, okay, this is an Italian conversation. And I tell my adult students, I'm like, guys, you got to start speaking to your pets, you know? You got to
Oh my
start
God.
communicating, practice the language. They often say to me, oh, I wish I could practice with you more. I don't practice speaking enough. It's only, you know, twice a week we speak and I want to
Yeah.
speak more. And I'm like, then speak, do you know? That's what I tell
Yeah.
them. Go and speak to your pets, speak to yourself. But with the characters and with kids, wow, that's powerful.
Thank you. Yeah, your pets are the best listeners and they're very affordable language
Yeah.
partners. Like so these characters actually are based off my pets. So Salt the cat is a black cat, which is my cat Dean, and Pepper is our Boston Terrier named Miho, and Sunny
Right.
is a squirrel that I just love squirrels. This is so my office is looks at a tree, and there's always I just think squirrels are very cool. They're soups. They're cool animals. I'm sure I don't think a lot of people agree with me, but red squirrels are super cool. So yeah, like I talk to Dean the cat all the time in Swedish. I always ask him if he wants fish in Swedish, and they get all the languages. It's just it's yeah, you do a lot of mumbling, right? Like when you're listening to your podcast and you're walking down the street and you're like repeating, you know what I mean? People probably think you're
Hmm.
crazy, but I'm doing it. I don't care. I'm not sure if I'm speaking really loudly because I have my headbuds in and practicing Chinese or something, mumbling to yourself. And yeah, you said something. Um, it was maybe one of your Twitter. You're really hot on Twitter. I'm wondering if I'm missing something. It's not Twitter anymore. What's it called now? What's
X. It's
okay?
called X now. I still call it Twitter, but it's yeah, X now.
Well, you wrote something on X that it was really cool. It was like something like it's a shame like you just wish that you could tell people how easy it is. I think that there's this huge misconception, and sometimes I can get really frustrated because I'm like I know all your objections. I know your objections of why you think a language is hard. It is hard. It's not that it's easy, but I don't think we have to make it harder than it is. And I think that's the piece that's really important. It's like language learning, like anything, I have it's small little things that you integrate into your life. And that's why our stories are so fantastic because they're short, they're beautiful, they're colorful. The teacher videos are short, 2 minutes. And then eventually they don't need the teacher videos because they're reading the whole story in their TL, in their target language. Um, I do feel like there's a resurgence or something, the wave of like language learning. I think people are starting to realize it's different. I think I think the grammar books I think might be a thing of the past. Would you agree, or are we still up against that big battle?
I think that it's not that we need to like burn the books or anything, you know. Keep the grammar books, but it's just the way that we prioritize studying grammar in order to learn a language. We should do it the other way around, you know. Learn a language and then study the grammar. and I often make this distinction on Twitter, on X. Yeah, I often post about grammar and to trigger a few people because a lot of people are very proud of. They're like, I've tried so hard to learn this language and I study all this grammar and stuff. And some people like it, which is fine. But I say to them like, you don't have to study grammar to learn grammar, you know?
Correct. That's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah. There's a big difference, isn't it? People just they confuse the two. They're like study and learn same. And I'm like, no. Studying should be to reinforce what you already learned, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
I gotta tell you, I give credit to a lot of these like studygram people that like study for hours on end. And I'm like, man, that's amazing. Like I give so much credit to people that really like spend a lot of time and like sit down, like traditionally write. Like I don't know, I feel like I'm a little bit of a renegade. I've kind of always been that way. Like I don't want to sit and have to I don't know. I kind of I feel like it's got to be practical for me. And I would so much rather enjoy a story. Like I love stories. Everyone loves stories, right? And grammar books, they're only good for so little. I don't know. I just I feel like if you're going to use your time, I feel like there's a better way to use it. But and this is the thing about grammar. There there are some grammar schools that are great and they have their space and they have their place. My I guess my purpose is for kids to speak, is for kids to be
Mm,
like to be learners. So I shouldn't like take a side, I guess, because there is a space for that. If somebody needs to study grammar for a college exam, like do it. And best of luck, truly, because it's hard. Grammar's tough. And they're going to throw all the irregular things at you. Like it really is like a memorization of a manual. But
mm,
our focus is kids changing their mindset, hence the bit my business name, the name of the school, language mindset, is for them to change their mindset that you actually can be fluent. Like I tell this to my nephew, he's 8. And I'm like, you're I didn't start learning Italian officially until I was 15. Like you are light years ahead of me. Like it's just I just want to start the kids earlier and I want them to know and I want the parents to know that this is they actually can be fluent. I feel like you started your language learning around 18ish, 17, 15.
I so I studied French at school,
You
but
failed
I'd say
and you
yeah,
failed. Is that right?
properly. Say again.
Are you a failure too? Because I'm a Spanish failure.
Oh,
You failed French?
I was furious. This is the thing that triggered my big. I was always kind of I had the intention of traveling anyway because I wanted to get out and see the world, and I didn't want to enter the world of work or go to university. So I was using that as a bit of an escape anyway. But when I got my results, my A levels, which are like our exams we do between 16 and 18, just before going to university or college, I got the second worst grade in our class. The girl that got worse than me was couldn't say anything,
Oh,
you know. And I was annoyed because I loved French and I put in so many hours studying, doing it the old way, reading all these words, trying to cram them in my mind.
wow.
And then I was like, right, what triggered me was the guy that got the best grade in our class was naturally the guy with the highest IQ, the smartest guy. And he remembered everything, spat it
Yep.
out onto the page, remembered everything, spat it out in his oral exam. And I was like, right, let's think about this. He's got a better grade than me, probably knows more French words than me or whatever, and obviously write better than me. But neither of us understand the language when we're speaking with someone, and neither of us can speak it fluently. So what's the difference, you know? And that's when I looked online in the old days, like the early days of YouTube. It wasn't I found, I think it was Luca Lampariello who was talking about how to learn languages properly. And I was like, man, if this guy can speak 8 languages, I think I could learn French. I just need to listen to him. So I ended up watching Luca's videos. Luca Lampariello and Richard Simcott was the other guy who
Oh
I looked
yeah.
at. And and from there I found resources to learn French and kind of muddled my way through and found my own
Wow.
method. But it was so I would say I was 18, 19 when I started learning French properly.
Wow. Oh
Yeah,
my
so an
gosh,
adult
that
proper. Yeah, yeah.
your story is I like muddled through teaching myself Spanish, French, and Italian the old-fashioned way, you know, with going to the library and the
Yeah.
grammar books. And I think I just kept with it, that it stuck. But I will tell you, this is the beauty of um, learning, meeting people globally, is when I actually started this business almost 5 years ago, I was fluent in 3 languages. I'm not fluent in other these languages I'm about to mention, but that's when I actually learned more or better ways. Well, actually, it was right. Okay, I was starting to learn right before with the stories, but basically, what I'm saying here is my language. I thought I was a big shot with 3 languages, but then when I started my own business, I like tacked on like 5 or 6 more. They're all at different levels, like, you know, but learning and being integrated and and being interested in it. So like I didn't learn about some of those polyglots you're talking about until like 5 years ago. I didn't know that there was this huge world. I was in this box. And I think that goes back to like what my mission is to say to kids, you can be fluent in one, but you could actually be fluent in a couple. Like we're in a bubble. I don't know how England is, but America, we don't, it's not prioritized here. So there's quite a education I have to do, which is okay. But that there's a big world out here and a lot of people speak languages, more than one, and that the minority, Patrick, of people in the world are monolinguals. So what that means is the majority of humanity speak more than one language.
Which is shocking. It's shocking to hear, right? Because the cultures we grew up in, even probably even more so in the UK, I guess, because in the US, although it's a big country, isn't it? It depends on the state, etc. But in the US, there's a lot of Spanish speakers, and it's quite a normal thing to see someone who's bilingual. In the UK, especially, and if you're in a outside of a big city, it's very strange to kind of hear other languages being spoken. Like the idea of you being able to speak 2 languages kind of comes from, okay, it's because your parents are,
Uh-huh.
French or Italian or whatever. That's why they speak 2 languages. You can't learn it any other way. That's the kind of attitude. And I have a similar passion, really. I really want to help English, well, everyone really, all English speakers, but certainly the English people to learn, at least learn French or Spanish when they go on there on holiday every year. And then it's such a crime, honestly, because I think English people have got such a lot to give,
Mm-hmm.
but with such a bad reputation. I don't know if you know about like the reputation the Brits have, could be similar to the Americans who go to Cancun, I guess. They just go there, get drunk in the sun, and make a big mess and are rude and obnoxious. And we're
Mm-hmm.
really not like that, you know. We're very polite, we're very funny, but we
Yeah,
just
Brits are
because
funny.
of
You
that
guys,
language barrier.
yeah.
We're honestly English humor is. I've traveled a little bit and I spoke to a lot of people, and English humor is number one. We are
You guys are
hilarious.
dry. It's very dry,
Yeah,
right? Very dry. Yeah. But I am like, I really want to go to England. I want to go to the countryside. We've been watching some English murders lately, but it's been, which is not my speed, but it's very interesting. So but yeah, to go back to your point there, it is um to kind of just shed light to English speakers. This is the thing though, Patrick. We technically, okay, we don't have to learn another language. And I mean that, I think that you should. And this is the thing, because English is an international language. I understand why people are gonna be like, what's the sense? But I just can't imagine my life without it, and all how it's just so connecting with humanity. I mean, technically you don't have to. I'm not gonna argue that. That's a fact, right? Like, but are you gonna have a much more enriched life or experience when you're on vacation? 1000%. I don't,
is that
I don't, it doesn't take much for me to be like, I want to learn that language. Like I read this book, Crying in H Mart, with this Korean, about this Korean daughter and mother. And I'm like, I am, that their culture and their food and that story was intriguing. And now I adore Korean, like adore
Mhm.
it.
And that's the hard thing, isn't it? The only downside when you realize how to learn a language, when you learn how to learn languages properly, is they get addictive, right? And that is
Yeah,
that connection with another human being that makes it addictive. It's the connection, just being
it
able to
is.
like make them smile, seeing how a person's face changes when you go from speaking to English, which is very just like English. Yeah, like you said, it's the international language. We don't have to learn, but because it's the international language, it's so like transactional. Do you know? It's so
Yeah,
like I am speaking to you to communicate my idea. Da, da, da. But when you switch to like their native language, like you get another person. You know, you get their. I feel like their soul kind of comes up and out, and you're like,
yeah,
oh, it's yeah, it's like an electric feeling you get, and
it is.
just by knowing a few words and sentences, obviously it's
That's
better
right.
if you can have a conversation. It gets even richer. You know, it doesn't kind of start. It starts off at really cool, and it just gets cooler and cooler and cooler.
Yeah.
Or you get
And this is
deeper and deeper and deeper into the person.
you'd be
Um,
surprised
mm,
how little you need to just make that connection. I say like there's like
mm.
10 sentences that you need. There's a lot of hacking that you can do with it.
There is, but I try and share with people that you can hack languages in a way, like you can learn a couple of phrases and whatnot, but why would you if you can just do it properly, do you know? It's so much
Yeah.
more fun and rewarding to be able to learn it properly,
I
learn
mean,
how to
it's,
speak them.
yeah, I'm thinking, I'm in the world of like right now I'm in the world of different alphabets,
Mm.
like Korean, Japanese, and Chinese,
Yeah, right.
and Arabic soon. That's I have to just chill out because I'm like I want to know. I'm like okay, Arabic I'll wait until maybe the summer, but I can't wait for
Are you thinking about doing Arabic, are you?
yes. No, it's just a
Because
matter of when.
I am too. There's something that's calling me with
Really?
Arabic, and I'm kind of like, oh, ah, I've got to concentrate on other things, do you know? But
No,
this is what
Arabic
we're
is.
saying. It's hard to resist once you're like, well, I know I can do it.
I
It's
mean,
just
talk about a whole culture. I mean, I actually in college I audited an Arabic class, and it was so cool. Learning the script and everything was fat, beautiful, I mean, exquisite language. But yeah, Arabic will come eventually. I'm already looking for my Arabic like translator team. But to go back to just talking about the hacking, just the hacking is this. It's like it's I love maybe we should say prioritize because I'm just thinking about with Japanese like so now that we have Japanese, Korean, and Chinese, it's like what are we gonna do? We're gonna spend like a whole month on learning hiragana, or are we gonna learn like another 3 months learning the katakana alphabet? It's just like that for me. I don't know. I just feel like it's dead in the water. So it's like so with the stories we have the romanji, right, which is the romanization of it, so that you can see how it's basically the vocalization of it, right, in
hmm
romanization in Latin letters. But so you have the hiragana there because like I tried learning hiragana just from the chart and like just randomly, but now with that when I read it in our stories and I see the word for squirrel, risu, I can see that and I see the hiragana and that's now I remember those two because it's broken up into syllable chunks of consonant and vowel. But now I see that now I have that connection. That's what I'm saying about hacking. It's like let's not learn the language in a divided way. That for me is so ineffective and so boring. Boring. So put it in a story, put it in a story. We have the charts. We actually have some really beautiful, colorful charts that even your adult people, well, you're doing, yeah. But um, I basically, I don't know. I guess it's just like dive right in rather than doing it in like pieces, you know?
Yeah, go where the joy is, you know. Start there. That's what I go for. Go where the joy is, go where the connection is, and then let the rest of the language fold in
Right.
around it. That's why I start off with the listening and speaking, prioritize those two like first, really
yeah,
light that fire, and then be like, oh, actually, you know what? I would like to speak a little bit more sophisticatedly, or but I'll do some reading now. Do you know? Okay, I'll practice my spelling because it's a bit off, and that's the
right,
natural way to learn a language.
right, right. It does seem backwards. I feel like I want them to interact with the language first to see it. I want them to see the hiragana. I want them to see the katakana. I want them to see the kanji in there, and then they can play with it after. It's like, I, for our Japanese teacher, I'm like, we have to limit the amount of kanji. Like, we have to do light mode. We can't offer all the kanji at once. So like, we select the kanji that we want to use in that moment because there's a lot. Like, but they're also learning hiragana, and like, so I trust that their brain is going to make sense of it eventually. I'm not. Once we start explaining it, Patrick, they're done. And
Yeah.
and the stories do the work. That's it. And it's intelligent questions, teachers asking the questions about the story to gain comprehension, or very deliberate things like, can you put the check mark for the action there? Just to see if they even identify it, right? So yeah, that's really, I
It's
mean,
awesome. It's awesome. I
yeah,
love what you're doing, honestly. Yeah, keep it up. Thank you. It's been great chatting to you about this. And yeah.
thank you, Patrick. I'm going to send you over some stuff. We're just finalizing. We're fixing Sunny's ears because hers were too tall and they thought that she was a bunny and she's a scoiattolo. She non è un
Right.
coniglio. Ok, giusto, non è coniglio, è uno scoiattolo. So we're fixing Sunny a bit, but I will send you over. I want you to take a peek. Maybe you could do a little, yeah, take a peek at it. Tell me what
I
you
will
think.
do. Thank you so much for joining me. And I'll
Thank you,
make sure I drop
Patrick.
all your links. Where can people find you? Just say it audibly so people can search you up
Um,
right now.
Yep. So language mindset, we're really active on Instagram. So language mindset, and then just the website's the same, www.languagemindset.com. And my name's Juliana, so it's just Juliana at thelanguagemindset.com. Send
Epic.
your kids to me, anyone, get them learning a language. Yeah, it's really awesome.
Awesome. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Patrick.